Welcome to another class with Miss C. I hope that you're having a wonderful day. This week we've looked at phrases, clauses, simple sentences, and now we're going to look at compound sentences.
Compound sentences refers to a sentence made up of two independent clauses or complete sentences connected to one another with a coordinating conjunction or a semicolon. What makes a compound sentence? These three things. One, it needs to have two independent clauses, meaning two simple sentences, two sentences that can be put on their own. Secondly, a compound sentence must have a comma separating those two independent clauses, those two sentences. And lastly, it must contain a coordinating conjunction to separate as well, to join those two independent clauses. So, how does a compound sentence look? It looks something like this. It has a sentence, an independent clause, it has a comma, and it has what we call one of the coordinating conjunctions. Then it contains another independent clause, another simple sentences. So these are the coordinating conjunctions that are used only for compound sentences: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. And as I just mentioned, there must be a comma before those set of words, whichever one that you choose. So this is how a compound sentence looks. Now, sometimes compound sentences don't really use a comma and the conjunction. Sometimes they have a semicolon that joins them, which is totally acceptable because there are two independent clauses and a semicolon between, which is a little bit more stronger than just a comma, right? Sometimes also compound sentences have not only a semicolon, sometimes they have a semicolon and what we call a conjunctive adverb, like the word however. So this is how a compound sentence looks. Let's take a look at a few examples to better understand this. Here are the examples. The first example says, Joe waited for the train, but the train was late. Let's take a look at why this particular example is a compound sentence. The first piece says, Joe waited for the train. That's an independent clause, right? It can stand alone. It's a sentence. I can put it on its own and it will put a full stop and it will stand alone. But if you notice, it has a comma and a coordinating conjunction. The coordinating conjunction used here is but. And then it follows what follows is another independent clause. The train was late. Why is this a compound sentence? It's a compound sentence because it has an independent clause, a comma, a conjunction that is a coordinating conjunction, and another sentence. They're being put together, right? Sentence number 2 says, Mary and Samantha arrived at the bus station before noon, and they left on the bus before I arrived. This is a compound sentence because Mary and Samantha arrived at the bus station before noon can stand alone, and they left on the bus before I arrived can also stand alone, meaning that these two independent clauses, these two complete thoughts, are being put together by a comma and a coordinating conjunction. And in this case, the coordinating conjunction is and. The third example here says, he turned in the research paper on Friday. He would have not passed the class otherwise. This is an example of the one that I was referring to. Sometimes compound sentences don't necessarily have a comma and a coordinating conjunction. What they actually have, what actually is joining them is the semicolon. So you don't need a coordinating conjunction when you use a semicolon. So a compound sentence is created whenever you have two independent clauses being put together by a semicolon as well. The last way that you can create a compound sentence is by having a semicolon and a conjunctive adverb. This is what example number 4 shows. It says, Daniel read the book, independent clause. His friends saw the movie, independent clause. So here you can see an example of what I was saying, a semicolon and a conjunctive adverb joining these two particular thoughts. These are compound sentences. Now, why would you want to use compound sentences? Compound sentences would add variety to your paragraphs, right? So instead of having just short, simple sentences without reason, you can have a little bit of simple sentences and a little bit of compound sentences. Specifically, compound sentences are used to add. If they're not used to add something, they're used to provide a different viewpoint. And this depends on the type of conjunction that is being used. So we did talk about the fanboys and the fanboys being used to join sentences. But right now we're going to look at for what the purpose of each conjunction. What should each conjunction be used for? So we'll start with the usage. Let's see. The first conjunction that we're going to take a look at, the coordinating conjunction we're going to take a look at, is and, because it's one of the easiest one. What do you use and for? And is used to add extra information. So whenever you use and, don't use it to show contrast, use it to add information to a sentence. For example, I can say, my name is Miss Cindy, and if you notice I'm adding, and I am an English teacher. That is a compound sentence that is holding two independent clauses, and is the second part of it is adding, right? So always use the word and to add. The other conjunction that we will take a look at is but. But is used to give a different point of view or idea from that given in the first part of the sentence, and offers different perspective or possibilities. So and adds, but the word but shows a contrast, a difference. So here's an example of when to use, here's an example of how to use the word but. I love chocolate cake. It's a statement, right? But this contrast, remember, a different view, but it's unhealthy. If you notice in this sentence, the second piece is showing a different viewpoint. The first viewpoint was like it's very delicious, and the second viewpoint was like it's not quite that healthy, right? So that is when to use the word but. How about the word so? So is used to add extra information to build on the information given in the first part of the sentence. So it sort of functions like the word and, right? Because you're adding extra information. So whenever you use the word so, you're adding in. Whenever you use the word so, you add information, right? So here's an example of that one. I spent many hours working out, so here I'm adding information. So I deserve a snack. Or is the other word we're looking at. Or is another coordinating conjunction. It is used to add alternative information to support the information given in the first part of the sentence. The word is alternative. So if you don't like this, you will like the other, right? If it's not this, it is the other. So it's an alternative. It's giving sort of like a choice whenever you use the word or. So here's an example. I can do my work here at school, or I can go home and do it at night. If you notice, that's an alternative. I have two choices there, right? And that's what the word or should be used for.
Now let us take a look at the word nor.
The word nor shows a non-contrasting, a negative idea, adds more negativity to whatever already exists. So here I gave you a few examples. It says, I refuse to hug people I don't know. Nor will I kiss them? Contrast, if you notice. Don't do that. And they added the negativity to it. He didn't return my calls, nor did he respond to any of my texts. The word nor here is adding to the negativity. He didn't do this, and he also didn't do that one, right? So adds negativity. Neither the yoga nor the running made my back feel any better. So here as well, the yoga isn't doing you good, and like adding negativity. Also, this one is also not making running is not helping your back either, right? So if you notice, sometimes the word nor goes along with the word neither. Neither nor, right? The word yet. Yet says, yet is usually used to show that there are other ways of looking at things and to introduce a different opinion to that given in the first part of the sentence. So this is also used for contrast. An example of that would sound like, it was already late, yet we weren't ready for bed. Here's the last word, the last coordinating conjunction. The word is for. For shows a reason or purpose. Sometimes because can be used instead, so because can replace it. Here's an example. It says I go to the library for I love to read. So it sort of replaces the word because, right? So it shows the reason why. The other one says, while the word that my husband and I went to Costa Rica for it was our 5-year anniversary. If you notice, it shows reason why they went to Costa Rica, right? So emphasis on that. So let's do a quick recap. Let's contrast simple sentences and compound sentences. Simple sentences, as we said previously in the other video, they contain only one independent clause. They can stand alone. They contain subject, verb, complete idea, one independent clause. Compound sentence, on the other hand, they have two of those, two independent clauses being put together, either by a semicolon or by a conjunction, a comma and a conjunction. Simple sentences are often shorter, right? It's not the rule, but more than likely they're shorter because they only have one idea. While compound sentences are usually a bit longer because they have two and that are being put together. Simple sentences do not generally use commas. If they're going to use commas, they're not using commas to join anything. They're using commas to maybe separate ideas, like if it was a list. Compound sentence, on the other hand, they usually use a comma because they have a comma and a conjunction that is used to join the two ideas, right? Simple sentences are the simplest form of sentences. They're the simplest of all the types. However, compound sentences are a little bit more complex because they add two ideas, right? There are two ideas involved. And that's a review for compound sentences. Tune in on tomorrow to learn about the complex sentences. We're going to look at complex sentences. And then probably until next week, we're going to look at compound complex sentence. Remember to do your homework. And if you have any questions, contact me, especially using Google Hangout, because that one is directly on my phone and directly on my laptop. So whichever I'm using, I will be able to respond a lot faster than if you just put it on Google Classroom. Have a great day, guys. Bye.